Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome
Good
to the
morning.
Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danielle.
And every morning we come to you for 30 minutes of power. It's your half hour, not power hour, but power of the half hour.
Half hour.
There it is. And today is Friday, and you know why we're excited. Not just because it's Friday and it's the weekend, we get a chance to do what we love to do because we're working all week, but it is Q&A Fridays. And so if you have a question, we want you to chat or text it to 678-200-8996. I know I'm reading that fast, but you can see it up on the screen right there. 678-200-8996. Listen, you have questions for us, don't you? Get them in the chat right now. Today is all about you. So if it's about love or life or relationships, infidelity, trust, communication, this is your opportunity to have your questions answered.
Yesterday we had so many questions come through. And you know, when we jump on here Friday morning, we want to see questions like coming in left and right because these 30 minutes fly by. So if you're on early, hey Zach, I see you. JG, I see you. Jump in here with a question, okay? I see Ohio is represented in Los Angeles. We're excited about some things we're going to do, guys. We're going to start to keep track of where you guys are tuning in from so that we can see how this message spreads throughout the world. So we can't wait to bring you in on some of the exciting things we got going on with Couples Academy. You might notice things are shifting and changing here because we want to take it to the next level. So we appreciate you guys being here with us.
And as a matter of fact, spreading the word, we want to make sure that you spread it by like, sharing, and subscribing. Make sure you do that today. Get the word out because somebody's life is hanging in the balance and they're waiting for you to take their relationship to the next level. All right, guys, we'll be right back. Get your questions posted. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy show. All right, guys, listen, we're excited. We're excited. February, we're just a couple days away from February. And as you know, it is Love Month. It's the shortest month of the year. But however, it can be a very intentional, impactful month of the year as well. You have 28 days to express love to your spouse like you never have before. But many of you are wondering, well, how do we do that? This is how you do it. You get this book, The Audacity of Marriage. If you are a member of our community and you do not have this book, you are missing out. We have 10 great principles to lifelong partnership that will literally make a huge difference in the way that you show up in your relationship. So you can go on Amazon and get your copy today. What a perfect gift for your spouse for Valentine's Day.
Absolutely. I see the comments. Hey guys, let's just get a welcome going on. I already told JG. Good morning. Good morning, Conrad, Renee, Christy, Kia Bello, A Faithful Miss, Louisa, Teresa. Hey everyone. Oh yay, a question. Thank you guys. So remember guys, it's Q&A Friday. So when you come on, say hello. My question is, or hello, I'm coming in from, and my question is, jump in here and get your questions going so we can get started. But welcome to the show today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell a friend.
All right, so we have a couple questions. One actually came in a little bit early, and we want to go to that. It's JD. Let's hear what JD has to say.
Good morning. My question is, can you change controlling behaviors after having them for so long and being unaware that some of the things that you did were controlling? Is that possible to change, or is that a part of your personality? What steps do you take?
JD, when you're talking about bad habits like this, it's always a part of your personality. As a matter of fact, when we talk about the Enneagram, if we're talking about who is the most controlling on the chart, it's usually 1s, 9s, and 8s. And the reason for that are different, right? 1s want to control things because they want things to be a certain kind of way. 8s want to control things because they just want to be in control and in charge of everything. 9s want to control things because they don't like disturbing the peace or to be pushed or forced to do anything. So the answer to your question is yes, it is a personality style, but we all operate at different levels of health when it comes to our personality style. So sometimes we're operating in our less resourceful self and it's a little bit more exaggerated and we're showing up in a negative way. We can always work on improving our personality style, and it begins by awareness. Once you're aware that, okay, this is my personality style and I have a tendency to be controlling, then now you can do what is necessary to say, okay, these are the things that I'm no longer going to do, or I'm going to be conscious of these things more. And then also allowing your spouse to contribute to that, right? Because if I say to you over and over again, you're so controlling. Every time I want to make a decision, you have to tell me how to do it, when to do it, what to do. Now it's being reflected to you. So now you have awareness because you know it, and it's being reflected back to you from your partner. Now you know, okay, this is something real that I need to work on.
Absolutely. And what I would say is that when it comes to change, whether it's a controlling issue or any issue, we all have some idiosyncrasy. We all have some struggle we need to overcome. But I think what happens is we overestimate our ability to make that change. We give ourselves too much credit. Think about it. There have been some things in your life you've been struggling with all of your life, and you've made a conscious decision to do something different, but you slip back into old patterns, old ways, old behaviors. So it's going to take someone or something outside of yourself. I think that many of us think, oh, well, listen, I made the decision. I won't fall into that temptation. I've got willpower. Or your willpower is not on will call. And what that ultimately means is, just like with anything, you may start your day with a whole lot of willpower and willingness to overcome. Halfway through the day, that willpower starts dying out. By the end of the day, it's gone, it's spent. And so you don't just have access to it when you want it. And that's why you have to safeguard yourself when it comes to certain behaviors to make sure that you don't wind up slipping into things that may cause destruction. And so, listen, you need help, whatever that means. If it's joining a community, if it's having an accountability partner, if it's having a coach or a counselor to guide you through a process that you are submitted to, as long as you are in the throne seat of your own life, trust and believe, you're going to slip back into
we can change. I think about George Foreman, who had a complete and total personality transplant, right?
He did.
You know, he used to be this mean and surly person. Nobody liked him. And he got into the hands of some great training, got somebody to help him with it, and he has a whole new personality. He's not even the same person anymore. So we do have the ability to change.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the next question from Rachel. Let's see what she has to say.
Hi, how should you handle when someone does not follow through on their word repeatedly? And when you ask them about it, they say you're making a big deal out of nothing.
Yeah, you do have to be a person who honors your word. A lot of times we say things in passing and we don't mean what we say. We just say things to be saying things. Like, hey, I'm going to call you tomorrow, right? Knowing good and well you are not calling that person tomorrow. Or I'm gonna get with you. I'm gonna get with you next week. Make sure you text me. Let's make this happen, right? And you have no intention because you know you out of town next weekend. I think I've been guilty of that. You know, saying things and having good intentions possibly, or just saying things to just move on with the conversation or move on with my day. And then what it does is it leads to disappointment and frustration, and people begin to question you, because really it's a matter of character and integrity. And there should be no separation between your word and your deed. And so whenever somebody's doing that in your life, you have to make them consciously aware what they're doing. And at the end of the day, listen, you have a decision as to whether you're going to receive it, if you're going to believe it, if you're going to show up to it. You can shut that behavior down by not participating in it. And so if they've offended you and disappointed you again and again and again, now I got to ask, well, what are you willing to do? Because you can't change that person's behavior. You can't make that person do right. So how are you going to show up? Because when you make changes in you, you're forcing them to change. And so when they realize, oh, I can't just say what I want to say to that person because they will give me the shutdown, it will lead to some type of consequence. I got to do better.
Yeah.
You know
I think, when it comes to somebody who doesn't stick to their words, sometimes they're just non-committal type people, or they vacillate back and forth, or they're just, they just have a real problem with it. Like Asani said, they have good intentions. I think when we sit down with them and explain to them that every time you break a commitment, you break my trust. And if they can understand how big that is, that you're becoming someone that I cannot rely on, that I can't trust. Now, when you say things, I don't have any confidence in what you're saying. That might really help that person to understand, like, wow, I need to actually be accountable to my words. So I think that's a good step if it's your partner. Sit down and have these conversations. I think the biggest thing is we don't talk to each other. We don't communicate. We just kind of like mash it down and we hold it in, and it becomes resentment. And now we have these thoughts in our head. I can't trust him. I can't rely on anything he says. Instead, dialogue with your partner, get it out in the air, and give them an opportunity to do things differently.
Absolutely. All right, we have one more question prepped, and then we're going to get to your questions in the chat, so let's hit that question. All right, one of our Moving Forward members, and if you don't know what the Moving Forward member program is, we'll get to that in a second, but every time an issue is brought up, it becomes a tit for tat. Everything is a battle. My spouse has a rebuttal for everything. How do we overcome this? Now, we're dealing with communication problems, and the problem is when it comes to communication, that's probably one of the biggest issues that all couples have. We talk about it all the time. The 5 biggest issues: sex, communication, money, parenting, in-laws. But at the end of the day, if you don't know how to effectively communicate, all other issues show up in all these other areas. And so at the end of the day, you have to give your spouse a platform to share his or her concerns without you constantly coming back. Well, you do the same thing too. Well, what about you? What about last week when you did such and such? Listen, you can reserve your positioning for when that issue is resolved. And if you realize your partner's guilty of the same thing, create space and time for your grievances to be heard. But right now, it is your partner who has an issue that they want discussed and resolved. The fact of the matter is, and I think Danielle talks about this all the time when it comes to personality types, we may do the same thing, but for different reasons. There's different motives behind us doing what we do. And so I think it's important that if the goal is resolution, I don't have to be right now. I can give you permission to release and share what it is that's on your mind and bring comfort to you to let you know that I acknowledge what you're saying. I want to help resolve the issue. But once we do, can we now then have a conversation about my perspective? Because I kind of feel the same way.
Listen, guys, I'm sure that is ringing so many bells right now for many of us out there, because that is a big struggle. We struggle with it. Everybody struggles with it, because when you're in the midst of an argument, you want your point to be heard. And this is when we have to exercise the rules of engagement. If we want to have successful communication and avoid all of these explosive arguments, we actually have to follow the rules. And that means, like Hassani said, listen, I have an issue to bring up with you. Can we focus on my issue? I think what happens a lot of times is even when we follow the rules and we say, yes, I'm going to focus on your issue, as soon as the conversation ends, then it's like, well, can you also do this, right? No, today is not your day. And that's a simple way to avoid the tit for tat, because a lot of times people are like, look, like, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it 10 times greater. Especially women. Like, I know that's something I'll say all the time. Like, listen, you ain't going to out-argue me. You can't out-argue me. You can't out-yell me. Here we are, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So when you know that that's your pattern, sometimes you have to just step back, operate with some emotional intelligence, and roll the tape back. Sometimes you just need to take a pause, step away, even if it's just 15 minutes, cool down, and then come back to the conversation calmly and say, hey, can we move forward in this conversation? Can we talk about my issue? And that person has to use their emotional intelligence and allow you to do it. It really is both sides. It's like, I said this the other day to one of my clients, you cannot have a tug of war with just one person. It takes 2 people. Let go of the rope.
It takes 2 to make a thing go wrong, but it also takes 2 to make a thing go right. All right, we got lots of questions. I'm going to jump right in. Jasmine says, hi, if a person cheated in multiple relationships, should they get individual counseling to address brokenness in addition to working on relationship? Absolutely. Sure. We talk about that all the time. Like, there's some individual issues that I brought into the relationship that if I don't correct my brokenness, I'm going to help break this relationship. We say this all the time. A person cheated because there was some hurt, some pain, some brokenness within them. And then when they cheated on their partner, it created hurt, pain, and brokenness in their partner. Yeah. And then that partner now takes that hurt, pain, and brokenness and throws it back. And that becomes the cycle. So all of us should get individual as well as couple counseling. And I think it can be done simultaneously. We say this all the time. If you're working with a couples counselor, And then you're working with your own individual therapist. And then your partner's working with their own individual therapist. You have all of these voices that are speaking into your life, and all they know is what you share with them, and they're giving you the best information that they can. But oftentimes the information may be conflicting because all they know is your narrative. And so that's why we love working with couples, both collectively and individually. Danielle works with the women, I work with the men, and we work with the couple together, because we have a sense of what is and what isn't, what's true, what's not, what the real story is, not what the proposed story is that you're sharing. And so that way we're able to give you information that is more impactful and transformational for your life.
Yeah. Vashana has a question. How can I overcome triggers when it comes to everyday life? Example, when my wife is on her cell phone, it sets off a trigger, but I know she has to use it daily. Is there any hope in sight? Absolutely, there's hope in sight. You know, triggers are there to warn you. You know, we always talk about triggers in a negative light because they cause us to show up negatively, but actually it's really to protect us from things that we think are going to be harmful. So if you have a trigger as it relates to the cell phone because maybe there was a time when she was hiding, talking to someone or texting another person on the cell phone, you are triggered because you don't know who she's talking to. If you know that she's using it for work, that's when you have to use your own emotional intelligence and say, okay, she's working. And you use some techniques. You start to breathe through the process. You actually reason with yourself. And that's what people don't understand, that triggers happen and you don't get to control when they happen. But when you're going through a trigger, you can control everything about how you respond to the trigger. It comes on you like this. Sometimes it's physical. You're hot, you know, you get heated, you get mad. But when you're aware that you're triggered, and you make the space to come into understanding, then you can make different decisions. And I think that's a big thing. You know she's using it for work. You know she's not using it to talk to a male or something like that. And so now you have to exercise that emotional intelligence and tell yourself, okay, it's okay. She's just using this phone to talk to somebody at work. It's okay. Breathe through it.
Excellent answer. Listen, guys, we have a lot of questions. I can't wait to dig in deep. Many of you have been asking about the Moving Forward program. You see it. A question just came in from one of our members. It is an opportunity for you to be a part of a selective group of people who are all striving for the same thing because they want a better relationship. They want to restore some hurts and pains. And you glean from the membership that you are a part of, in addition to the teachings that you receive. So listen, find out a little bit more. We'll be right back to answer more of your questions. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Welcome back, guys. We're going to jump into the next question here. It's from Alicia. She says, good morning. My question is, how do I get off the crazy cycle? My husband cheated and we are working on things, but I'm exhausted from the emotional struggle I go through.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. A lot of times people are on the crazy cycle. And my question is, what is the work that you're actually doing? Okay, who are you doing it with? What steps are you actually taking? Who is holding you to accountable? What individual work are you getting done? What collective work are you getting done? And it goes back to the whole idea is that many of us have the best of intentions and we want to DIY our recovery. And so we grab a bunch of books, watch a bunch of videos, read a bunch of articles. We even tune into the Daily Show, and we're getting bits and pieces and parts and fragments of what we need to do. But there is a sequence and a process. I remember we had a last chance week. We had a private marriage intensive with a couple who came here, and they were like, you know what? We went on a weekend retreat. We rented out this house, and we started digging into your book, and we started doing some of these exercises, and then we realized that, wait a minute, I think this is out of order. I think we're missing elements. And so they said, you know what, why don't we just go to the people who actually created the book and have the program. And when they got here and experienced the weekend, they said, oh my God, we were scratching the surface. We had no clue all of this was a part of the recovery process. And so I would say, listen, just reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Go to the website, couplesacademy.org, and set up a discovery call. Let's talk about this crazy cycle that you're on, and let's see how we can get you off of it to give you a firm foundation for something that's long-lasting, sustainable, and beneficial to both parties involved.
Very good. Sky says, 10 days since D-Day, marriage is healing and we're doing great. However, I'm still feeling a lot of anger and resentment towards the other woman whose life didn't skip a beat. That is a powerful statement that you made, whose life didn't skip a beat. And I mean, I don't know how true it is that her life didn't skip a beat. Maybe she feels like she lost out on something, but at the end of the day, it's about drawing a circle around your own 2 feet and working on you, because resentment and unforgiveness taking root in your spirit is something that you want to work on immediately. You know, it's one thing to have the feelings and have the emotions, right? But it's another thing to allow those things to brew, to fester, and to take root. And those roots grow strong, thick, and wide. And the longer you allow them to stay, the harder it is to pluck it out. You can snatch a weed, but can you snatch a tree out?
Oh, I thought you said snatch a weave.
Weed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can snatch a weed, right? But can you snatch a tree from its roots? No, you cannot. So that's something that I would get busy working on. There's a lot of resources out there. Healing is a Choice there's a great book to read. It really talks about how to go through life and how we tell ourselves 10 lies about the ability to heal and how there are 10 truths. And so that's a really powerful book to pick up if you are really struggling with healing and letting go and forgiving.
Absolutely. And in 10 days, you're in the most emotionally volatile state of the entire process. In the discovery phase, every day is an exhaustive day. You go from anger to sadness to depression to you're ready to call it quits to you want to hold on for dear life. It's so painful to go through that, and every thought you think is emotionalized. And so there's a story that you're telling yourself about you, about your husband, about your marriage, about what that affair was, about the other woman. And to Danielle's point, we really don't know what's happening with that other woman. We don't know the level of devastation that she's going through, or the lie that was told to her, or maybe she was complicit. But at the end of the day, we want to focus on your healing and your personal restoration and your marital restoration as well. So get the help that you need to turn this thing around.
Yep. We got another question here. Lorene says, I'm having a really hard time initiating hugs and kisses towards my husband after I found out he had a 6-year affair. We are in counseling together and individually. And this is something that's very common. Hassani talks about this a lot, how we might go into hypersexual arousal where after an affair and we want to have sex all the time. And then you have others who just completely shut down. One of the things that we love to suggest is to go on what we call a sex fast, or this intimacy challenge really is another way of saying it, because oftentimes when there has been an affair, the intimacy is gone, you know. On both sides, you'll find that the person that was unfaithful has a hard time looking you in the eyes because they have shame and guilt, right? And you, as the hurt partner, have a hard time looking in the eyes because of insecurities as a result of them stepping out and having an affair. And so when we could take some time to take sex off the table and only focus on rekindling intimacy, it's a powerful thing. Most folks think, oh my God, I don't know if I can go 4 days without having sex, 5 days without having sex. But I promise you, it's the most intimate, connecting time you will ever experience when you take sex off the table and now you're focused on communicating.
And we
touching,
did that.
Talking. We did that. Tell them about it, because I actually invited Hassani to this challenge and he was just like, are you crazy? Tell him about it.
The devil is a liar, and I rebuke him right now. So when she came to me, I thought she was going to come with something foolish, like, we're going to do 90 days or 6 months. And
well, you thought 30 days was crazy.
I thought that was long, but I was willing to deal with it for the purpose of the outcome. At the end of the day, sacrificing something now for a greater benefit, that's what it was really all about. And so in that particular time, there was no expectation, there was no anxiety, there was no anything. We were able to be free. We connected, we played, we laughed, we joked, we hugged. There was nothing else attached to it, which opened up her heart and her mind and her willingness to engage on a deeper level.
But what I want to talk about with that is what's really important is that when I presented it to you, you were like, heck no, the devil is a liar, all of that. But when I started to share with him how one of the biggest issues is desire, like you want me to desire you as much as I want to desire you, but I don't. And that's a big issue. I talk about this all the time, this lack of desire that a lot of women go through, and that's what you're talking about. You're having trouble hugging and touching and connecting again. And so when he realized, like, this could be a win-win situation. She could actually learn to turn on something that right now is turned off. That was really interesting and intriguing to him, and that turned the table. And I think when you explain it to men that way, that lets their guard down.
And what's interesting, you have two components of a sexual relationship that are really diametrically opposed. You have intimacy and you have desirability. Intimacy is about how close you can get. But interestingly, when couples get very close, the desire goes, because I don't have to desire what I have in front of me. But when there's a longing and a craving, like when there's a distance between two people, you begin to crave, long for, and desire what you don't have. So it's like this fine dance that you have to play between intimacy and desirability. And because we went for 30 days, you began to feel, not that it took 30 days, because we didn't even make it the full 30 days, because she wanted to break it, which I thought was awesome. So it actually served its purpose, and the desire did come back, and we didn't even make the full 30-day process. So I loved it. And so I would encourage you all to do it.
I loved it.
We ain't doing it again.
Hold on.
But I would encourage y'all to do it.
I got to say this one more thing. I loved it too, because, and I know this is resonating with somebody, because I would avoid him like the plague. Okay, you know, you get dressed in the same bedroom, right? But if you know he's coming, you don't want to be seen in your underwear. You don't want to be seen. You're gonna cover up, put a robe on, put a hat on, and just seem as sterile as possible. But when the 30 days was on, I was just like, yes, I was free. And he enjoyed the freedom. You know, he enjoyed me. I would jump on him, hug on him, roll all up on him, because I knew I could be as playful and free. I could be as flirty and free as I wanted to. And I knew that there was no obligation of the sex at the end of the night. And that was big for me, because I even wanted to explore my intimacy skills and what I would feel. I mean, it was an adventure for me to see, okay, when is the desire going to come? Because not only am I expressing differently, but you were expressing differently. You were showing up differently, because that's all we had.
And we began to read things together. We read books on intimacy and things of that nature, and that actually helped to get great ideas. We had conversations that we were open to that we wouldn't have had without angst and all of that during that particular time. And you can focus on sensuality, not sexuality. There's a difference. Sensuality, tapping into all the five senses that you can explore, that heightens your connection.
Yeah. We have another comment down here. Here we go. It says, Rayo, can you share your story? I've been watching your videos for over a year and may have missed your story. And here's what I'll say. It would take the rest of our little bit of show to unpack our whole story, but we do have our book. Show them the book, Hassani. You can go pick up our book at Amazon. Our entire story is in there. Many of you are already reading it and getting lots of help. Pick up the book. You just need to get the book.
Yeah. Okay. And next week when we have more time, we can start sharing those things with you. There's another question. Hey, Font. Oh, I'm sorry, from Kenya. How do you deal when your spouse lets you know that they are in love with someone else? Yeah, that's a blow, because we're talking about an emotional affair, right? And sometimes for some people, all right, fine, I get the sex piece, but you gave them your heart, like you are in love and emotionally entangled. And so what I would say is, I would want to unpack that. I would want to have an in-depth conversation about that, an ongoing, continual conversation to get to the root of it all. What was it that caused an emotional disconnect between us, and what allowed you to find some level of emotional attraction and attachment to somebody else? Getting to the root of the matter, at least you begin to understand the why. And so these type of conversations you can't have on your own. You need somebody there with you, because I'm going to tell you, if he's in love with somebody else, he may not feel comfortable just telling you what the real reason and root of that is. That's why we always recommend getting a third partner or party to guide you through that process, because it's heavy. Now, the attraction that you initially had, if you stop doing the things that you used to do, the language of attraction, it can become the language of seduction when someone else is doing it.
Yeah.
And so when an affair happens, either something's going on inside of the person, something's going on inside of the relationship, or a combination of the two, and you need a magnifying glass to look deep into what those issues are to get the answer to that question, then to know what to do about it once you're confronted with it.
That's our show.
Guys, we love you. Have an amazing
Wonderful weekend.
We will. We have a couple who just flew in from Baltimore. We're about to do this 3-day private marriage intensive. So we hope to give you a phenomenal testimony on Monday. We want to hear from you too as we sign up for another great episode. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. Love you. Deuces.
Bye.
Peace. Audi 2000. See you next week. Arrivederci.
Ciao.
Bye, y'all.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you're interested in one of our restoration programs, contact us today at couplesacademy.org.